to Science Fiction, Race, and Racism, a video blogging channel about the most famous and influential works in science fiction and how they deal with issues of race, ethnicity, racism, prejudice, and intolerance. Both the best and the worst, the most groundbreaking and insightful, and the most callous and clueless. Science fiction has a long history of both being opposed to racism, prejudice, and intolerance, but also of conscious or unconscious racism. Sci-fi fans, authors, and works are often said to be above, beyond, incapable of, and far past any prejudice. That is often the appeal of sci-fi, especially the most utopian works. Sometimes a sci-fi setting, story, or theme can be another way to comment upon, critique, or even tear apart prejudice and hatred. For others, sci-fi is pure escapism, a way to get away from such issues. Sometimes this backfires. The most escapist sci-fi work is often the most racist. Sometimes the same three approaches or beliefs coexist within a work of sci-fi, within an author or a sci-fi fan. My name is Carroll. I'm Associate Professor of History at Northern Virginia Community College. I teach American, American Indian, and Latin American history. I've written mostly about wars, veterans, human rights, and genocide. I've also written some science fiction, mostly alternate history, including a sci-fi alternate history book, The Man in Black, the first of a series. Up to now, the series has focused on the most influential sci-fi. Westworld is not, especially its earlier versions. It was two moderately successful films in the 70s, a quickly forgotten series canceled after only 5 episodes, and then an acclaimed new series more recently. Westworld, the original film, starred Siberian Russian actor Yul Brynner, playing his gunfighter character from The Magnificent Seven. In The Magnificent Seven, Brynner played a Cajun mixed-race gunfighter rescuing Mexican farmers. The setting in Westworld is in the 1880s, not 10 or 20 years earlier like most westerns. The reason was obvious: to avoid showing the mass killing of natives when they were forced onto reservations. This would have been too controversial and too difficult for author Michael Crichton and his audience to cope with or admit to. But the central message and part of the popularity for old westerns was allowing audiences to fantasize about killing what they saw as savage natives. The sequel, Future World, also dodged this implication of the Wild West as entertainment. Westerns were, and to an extent still are, based on the premise that natives and Mexicans are evil, by nature, because of their skin color and culture, deserving to be killed, wiped out, or tamed. Future World only briefly included Yul Brynner again, this time in a dream sequence. There was also a very brief failed series lasting only 5 episodes, Beyond Westworld. The premise was that the androids from Westworld escaped and were seeking to take over and cause chaos. It was frankly pretty dull. The public was indifferent. Only 3 episodes were even aired. In both the original film and the new series, the fantasy worlds are mostly, almost entirely, Western and white. In the 1973 film, there are only 3 fantasies: Westworld, Roman world, and medieval world. Roman world is shown as all white, even though in real life Rome had many Africans, North Africans, and Middle Eastern peoples. Even the Severus dynasty was made up of Africans on the Roman throne as emperors. The newer series doesn't avoid the ugliest racist implications of Old West fantasies. One set of characters that guests can become are Confederates, cold-blooded killers dehumanizing their victims. As one guest points out to another, quote, "Can't you stop trying to kill everyone or fuck everyone?" Another main character is a black prostitute android, and she has vivid memories of being repeatedly brutalized, murdered, raped, or at best regarded as temporary pleasure for guests who don't want to rape her. Her revenge for this long life of abuse is central to the plot. One more character is a black scientist who for the longest time doesn't consider the implications of intelligence and self-awareness in the androids he creates. What he does, he comes to realize, is creating de facto slaves, and slaves that will be tortured and murdered for entertainment. He is not a slave owner, he is worse. He is a slave trader, and worst of all, he is a creator of slaves, a slave maker. Central to later episodes are the mysterious Ghost Nation. These native warriors speak Lakota, though culturally they could be any Plains tribes. The Plains tribes were central to most Western film fantasies, though rarely was there any attempt to show them accurately, or even with sympathy, until the Civil Rights Movement and the Vietnam War made Americans question the premises of the Western. At first, the ghost tribes simply exist to be fighters for the guest fantasies of killing natives or fighting warriors who are worthy opponents. But over time they develop self-awareness and memories of their true nature. The ghost tribe are obvious stand-ins for the ghost dancers, a religion many natives turned to once they lost battles to the U.S. Army and were starved out and then forced onto reservations. Westworld's message seems to be this ghost tribe and the ghost dancers serve as the conscience for America, a reminder of the intrinsic evil done by, quote, conquering the West, or, quote, taming the frontier. The latest Westworld is one of the most acclaimed sci-fi TV series ever. It is subtle, it is thoughtful, and it's among the best sci-fi ever made. Its willingness to look deeply into the conscience of America and how what we choose to regard as entertainment make it far and above most of the mindless so-called adventure stories enjoyed by our parents and grandparents. Westworld was willing to not just include token characters, but tear apart the white supremacy beliefs central to the worst racism in the very concept of Western films. This is the end of the 18th video. Please repost freely, like, share, and comment. This has been Science Fiction, Race, and Racism video blog and channel. Look for alternate history series, Latin American Victory, and an earlier series, What If Natives Won, and possible future series.